And welcome to Vlog Thursday number 330. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I want to start saying that at the beginning of the videos because if you ever called my office, that is what you'll hear is thank you for calling Lawrence Systems, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. I like to start out any interactions with people with a little enthusiasm. So I thought about it and I said, why don't I do that in my videos? I've literally had that as my voicemail or IVR prompt, to be more specific, not voicemail, but that has been the prompt for a number of years. It's hope you're having a fantastic day. And it's funny because I say if your day is less than fantastic, press one for support. That's the next line I say. But yeah, I should probably start saying, I don't know, I like the enthusiasm on there. The keeping everyone enthusiastic. Let me turn my phone off. And I doubt that person is watching the live stream, but someone did decide to repeatedly call me that knows me. And I'm just like, yeah, you can't just repeatedly call me while I'm in a meeting over and over again and never leave a voicemail. I'm pretty confident that I will not call you back if you don't leave me a reason to call you back. That's certainly an annoyance I had. So anyways, I won't rant about that, but I will talk about where I'm going to be and when I'm going to be there. I like to start the vlog out on that happy note as well, which is in 9 days, 9 days away to MSP GeekCon. I'm pretty excited about that. So that's going to be kind of fun, heading over to Orlando. I'll also be at IT Nation Secure. I'm going to be speaking there. Those are the two public events. I have more private events I'm actually going to, but those are the public ones where you can find me. And I will admit, this really cracked me up here. Hello, world. Welcome to another Vlog Thursday show. Today's topic, 50 streams of Greylog. Yes, all the shades of Greylog. So, yeah, that's definitely going to be a fun topic. I will be talking a little bit about Greylog today. We'll throw this out here right away. What else? I don't even know what's in my, other than the logging stuff, I don't even know what else is in here. But making things hopefully make sense. I threw this out there for people today, which let me share this tab instead. This is another extractor, and I'll just say it's on my GitHub. That's, if you Google Lawrence Systems GitHub, if you can't remember the link, but I'll throw the link in the bottom here. There's my GitHub link specifically to this. People are asking about a UniFi parser. The UniFi parser is a little bit different, and I think this is what people want. This is at least what I wanted, so this is how I started out creating it. But I'm parsing the UniFi logs, and I forgot to upload them before, and I decided to tweak them a little bit. And the only things I really care about that come out of the UniFi logs that I want parsed would be so I could track if I needed to, and I haven't really needed to, but why not? Because I can. The RSSI out of the status updates that come from the UniFi to the Greylog system. What this is that extractor is a 2-part extractor. I'm going to pull it up inside of here. All you got to do is copy and paste it. You don't really have to do anything. I did all the creating part for this. So if you're using Greylog, you can just throw this in. But what a 2-part extractor does, the way UniFi works is it sends some of the data in JSON format and some of it just in syslog. So you have syslog, but within the syslog, part of it is JSON. So what we have to do is manage extractors, share this tab. When you're pulling the data out, you have to first extract the pattern. So if we look at the way this pulls patterns out, when it's pulling out the pattern, it creates another spot right here for the JSON data. Then there's a JSON parser, which is a lot simpler, that then parses it out further to other fields. But if you paste it in, it should be fine. And as long as you put the grok pattern before the JSON data, it should work. I might have to do some tutorials. I'm not an expert actually at grok patterns or anything like that. I completely use ChatGPT to fine tune these. So that's definitely easy way to do it. Is if I were to teach you how, I mean, I'm not good at regex or grok myself, but ChatGPT turns out better at regex than me. Just how calculators have superseded people, adding lots of numbers together. I look at things like ChatGPT. We have a complicated thing, at least to me, sorting out grok and regex patterns to match certain data. I literally can just grab some data that is unparsed, and I say, make me a Grok parser that will parse this data, and then it does it. So ChatGPT is awesome. This is the next thing I want to talk about. So people keep asking about this, and I don't think Elk is easier. So if you look at something like Elk Stack or Logstash or any of that, it's a much more complicated to set up. So I even seen, and here's the problem. I started setting up and I looked at the documentation. I'm like, this is harder. So this is, let's see, can I share this tab? And I talked to a couple friends that do some of this, and they said they don't use Graylog, but the people I talked to Elk were telling me just how much more work it was to set up Elk compared to what I did in Graylog. So for my use case, this seems harder. I don't have a reason that you shouldn't use it. They also don't appear to be open source anymore. I believe they did a bunch of licensing changes that removed the open source. So, yeah, I don't really know. I don't have any good answers for it. I don't plan to sit down and spend hours and hours learning it when I already know Graylog. I don't know. No one's made what I could find any good comparisons, and all the comparisons I did in forums, everyone just came up with the same conclusion that I have, is that Graylog's easier. So, I can't, it's one of those things like, do I do a video on it? It's one of those things like, I don't know, because I wouldn't, it's just too much waste of time to me. The same thing comes with Prometheus and Loki. So if you look at Loki, people really like Loki, but once again, it's a much more convoluted, complicated system. There's some people like, oh, there's some templates to deploy it, but I'm like, it's managing it and things like that. Then someone said, well, it's less CPU intensive than Graylog. And I'm like, okay, it ties in better to the K8s. Well, if you have the knowledge to set up, a really nice, extensive Kubernetes server for logging and everything, or for your infrastructure, and you're very familiar with it, and you want to tie something else like that in, maybe it makes sense. But when it comes to logging, the Graylog is the reason I went with Graylog. Is I had a Kibana set up with Logstash. I had a lot of problems with it. I could never get it working right. Graylog, I don't know if it's because their documentation was better or it just made more sense to me, but that's why I stay with Graylog. It's easy, it's open source, it's not confusing. So that's basically why I brought it up. And I don't know if it's really worth me doing a comparison video because I don't have enough. I actually asked several people if they would help me. Like, they're like, nah, I don't know. I couldn't find anyone who's like really proficient in it. So yeah, I'm using the video I just did, and this was also a confusing point. Someone said Graylog's not open source. I'm like, yes, it is. It's a different license, but they give you the source code, therefore open source. It's free to use. I do use Graylog Open, which also caused some confusion because someone left a couple comments on YouTube saying you can't do this with the Graylog Open version. I'm like, I literally am using Graylog Open. So it's just one of those things. And I don't think this is the answer because I don't know what, outside of people telling me Graylog is more CPU intensive, that's the only argument I kind of found in some forums. I don't know what Kibana can do that, or the whole Elastic Stack can do with Logstash that you can't do with Graylog. So that I don't know. I hope that my Docker deployment for setting up Graylog that is released super easy. So that's, yeah, that's one thing nice about it. And like I said, I made it, the video is kind of long, but it really gets you a lot of detailed logging and parser on there. I think the problem with Splunk, if I'm not mistaken, Splunk is not open source. And two, I think one of the fun things, the funniest tweets, I wish I could find it, because did Cisco buy Splunk? Did Cisco buy Splunk? Yes. February 11th, network maker Cisco has made a takeover worth $20 billion software maker Splunk on Friday, citing people familiar with the matter. The offer was made recently to companies are an active talks who said some of the sources. But um, so I don't know what the status of them. They're not open source, they're not free, so I have no uh, intentions of using them. But the other funny thing was, I remember when this got announced that they're doing it. Someone said $20 billion from Cisco. Was that just to pay their bill? Because the joke, of course, is that Splunk is quite expensive. So that's a pretty big um, it's a heavy lift in terms of it. It's not, I don't think it's a bad product. It's just going to be a lot more expensive. I try to cover a lot of products that are very accessible to home lab people to get them into, maybe understanding how logs work. The same thing with Security Onion. I think Security Onion is amazing. You will learn a ton. You may or may not run into it in the commercial world, but once you understand how like a tool like that works, it's actually really good to gather that knowledge and have something that's really accessible on there. What are some great use cases examples for Graylog? I actually have one. If you look up UniFi Graylog, I walked through a troubleshooting on it, but correlating all your log data to be able to troubleshoot things. I also used it to troubleshoot SMB logs when I was having a weird problem with SMB and the way it was mounting for manipulating files. There was a weird quirk I had found on it, but being able to put all the logs together and parse them to look for a weird error or anomaly are huge. I also have it monitoring like anything like VPN notifications. It monitors any of my servers that have problems, and then you build alert triggers based on those problems. So if there's any issues, you can have the log system alert you of any of those issues. How well will the Graylog container work in Podman? I don't know. I don't use Podman. Not high on my to-do list because it's a dedicated VM that runs the Docker container. So I'm not worried about it. So the advantage of Podman is the fact that you have the what do you call it? The Podman doesn't run as root, so people like that. I've not really looked into it to see what differences you have, but because this is my Graylog is running on its own VM, I'm not worried about escaping or not running as root. It's just an extra security layer. I don't know, maybe it'll work. I don't have an answer for that because I don't use Podman. Troubleshooting. What separates the pros from the amateurs? Definitely. Um, absolutely. Yeah, basically take any syslog messages from IP sense I care about and send me an email. Yes, because that's the thing. There's just a lot of data coming in, and you want to be able to parse that data and bring meaning to it. There are people, I know the reason Grafana is liked amongst the home labbers is because it has beautiful dashboards. Dashboards are cool, but at some point I need action. So that's a really, you know, uh, Podman integrates with System D and has a timer that can auto update containers too. I just didn't feel like trying any of it's written for Docker, so I didn't bother trying it for Podman. So if it's a drop in, awesome. If it has problems, I don't know. Why do you run Graylog in Docker if it already is in a hypervisor? What happens if either Docker or hypervisor host has issues with solution in place for mitigating the risks? What do you mean? Like it's easier and more convenient. That's why I do it. So, I mean, why build an extra system outside of my system? So that I do it so I don't have to have an extra system outside my system. Now let's talk about some feedback because I do have some feedback that people had in here. Where's the stupid feedback one? So people can email me. But let's read some feedback. Uh, do, 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 do. So I'm not sure on this one. This is one of the reasons I run Home Assistant on its own hardware. And I'm going to do a video really soon on Home Assistant, but people have trouble getting certain devices passed through in TrueNAS Scale. This person had asked how to get Home Assistant set up and pass through. So I did set up Home Assistant inside of TrueNAS Scale just to see if it would work. But the pass through, I don't know if they're having trouble. Like they set it up and it's not working properly. That is going to be the challenge you have because I'm using. I'll grab it real quick. I am using this little device here with my, can I do it? Will it focus on this? Yay. But if you go to my kit.co / Lawrence Systems, I have all my parts list for things. It's linked down in all the descriptions of my videos, but I have a Home Assistant parts list I'm putting together before I do it before I put together the video. So as I kind of change things, people just looking for the parts. Now, the trick with Home Assistant is if you need a Z-Wave device is getting passed through to work properly. And this is the problem. If you run it in Docker, you'll have to sort that out. I'm not an expert at troubleshooting it. Probably their forums is a better post for that. That's the, yeah. If the host goes down, what do you do for logging? The other host. We have more than one. We have 2 hosts. Docker update breaks Graylog. Well, at some point, if the Docker update breaks Graylog, I'm the one updating it, and I would look at the logs from Docker that are telling me it's breaking. I mean, I could build redundant log servers. I just don't have a need for that. It's not that critical. If I run the Docker update because there's a new version and it doesn't update, I will roll it back and look at the error message and figure out how to fix it. So that's pretty simple on that. The other question was whether or not I use a proxy for my Home Assistant. And with Home Assistant, I'm gonna do that, like I said, I'll do that video. I'll probably have it done next week. I'm just using is it Casa something? The company there's a commercial company that supports the Home Assistant project, and they have a reverse proxy they set up for you for really inexpensive. So that's all I'm doing on that. So hopefully it answers that person's questions regarding Home Assistant. Compiling Zen Orchestra. Hi, what's the recommended source in 2023 to build Zen Orchestra from sources? Have you been using the Zen Orchestra updater? Yes. Let me pull this up. If you're compiling from source, my video for compiling from source that I did several years ago is still relevant. Well, I think 2 years ago now. It's completely relevant today. It's the same Zen Orchestra updater. So if you look at the video that I have in my playlist, it's still the best way to update it. It's really weird. Someone says, doesn't look like it's being updated, but here it is. It was updated 2 months ago. So I don't understand. But nonetheless, I don't have to understand why people think that. I've had a few people. I got a weird message from someone one time. I think they mailed me a letter. I thought it was just so strange. They really liked my channel, but they wished I hadn't quit it and stopped making videos. And I'm like, huh, that's weird. I got it like a year or 2 ago, and it was just a weird letter to get from someone. I thought it was so strange that they mailed it, but then also said, I wish Tom would still make videos. I'm like, oh, good for them. I still make videos. I think the other question doesn't necessarily make any sense to me. I have a video on port forwarding. So the other person is wanting to know how ports are forwarded in pfSense. I have a video on port forwarding, so I'm not going to dive into that as a topic here today. Oh, let's see. Yeah, always take a snapshot before you update. Recommended storage for Graylog. Currently using 250 gig on my iSCSI SSD from TrueNAS. iSCSI is good because logs are generally small writes. The database specifically, OpenSearch is small writes, but I have no problems using it with NFS, and it works fine. So I have my Graylog system mounting an NFS share, and I'll log into Graylog, and we'll pull this up. And I got to share the screen. There we go. So many things to share. Present, stop, present, share screen, share. Hopefully this is coming through. All right. I just have just the logs. I keep everything inside the image itself on my main system. But this is the logs themselves are just going to an NFS share. The NFS share that you see right here is mounted on my TrueNAS system via NFS type version 4. So that's my solution to it. Someone will probably ask, why aren't you just having Docker mount it? Because it gives errors that I didn't feel like troubleshooting. And if I just tell it to mount at boot, it works fine. I just didn't feel like fixing the errors. If you have Docker errors, because there's some weird Docker NSF4, if you're using version 4 of NFS and you're using Docker, you will end up with some errors that there's a bunch of arguments in TrueNAS are the best way to solve, and none of them solved it for me. So I just skipped it. Are you using Linux for your streaming setup? If so, are you using Wayland or Xorg for your streaming setup? I use Pop OS, nothing special. So Pop OS for this stream, but I have a Windows system with OBS that does all my other cameras connect to it. My live streams are off my main computer, but my recordings all are off a Windows computer running OBS because the Windows computer works better with the Stream Deck. So the Stream Deck does the trick for that. So Linux has a harder time with it. Nabu Casa is the company that makes Home Assistant and hosts the cloud product. Yes, they are. They're awesome. I'm currently using Graylog with a VM, using local storage. How to get my logs moved to an NFS share. I covered that in my recent Graylog video. You have to edit the Graylog file, the Graylog Docker file, and change it from a volume mount to a mount location. I brought it up. It's in the video exactly where to change that. But you can also just Google how to point a Docker storage mount, the storage volume at a local mount. Mount something in wherever you're going to mount it, NFS, for example, like I did. And then I have the Docker image pointing at mount/Graylog. If I can pull that up. Yeah, right there. So under volumes, mount/Graylog instead of the volume name. That's all you have to do. Nothing. I do not use iSCSI as a boot volume. Does Graylog 5 publish instructions for bare metal installs? Yep, they've got documents for it. They're longer. That's why I did it in Docker. The new Cosmic looks interesting. Yeah, I love Pop OS. I like that they're working on it. If you're not using Docker, I do not have instructions for you, but all you have to do is point wherever if you're using OpenSearch, wherever you have those OpenSearch logs going, that's where you want to do your mount. So move them all over there. No, I have not watched Louis Rossmann do a video about Synology. I don't always consume a lot of content. If there's a question you have about it, feel free to ask. But I don't know what Louis Rossmann talked about regarding Synology, so I'm out of I don't have any context for that. Do you know if anybody is working on just building XOA open source as a full distribution so we don't have to build our own and can install, update regularly? No. Nope. There's no one working on that, and it's not likely anyone would. You just run that install script. You can build it from sources via their instructions, or you can run that install script that I mentioned earlier. I have a video that has a link to it. It's the Zen Orchestra install updater. It's on GitHub. So, yeah, but I don't know anyone's working on distribution except the people at XCP-NG. So if you stop present share screen. So this is the Zen Orchestra install updater. So easy enough to find this. It's called the Zen Orchestra installer, but Zen Orchestra. If you get it from them, they maintain all the updates for it. That's what they're doing, is offering service delivery of a complete turnkey system with auto updates and everything else. That's their service offering they do. It comes with support and updates. So that's if someone's interested in actually getting it fully supported so you don't have to maintain it, that's their business model, is selling that. Can Graylog scale horizontally multiple servers VMs? Yes, Graylog can be set up in a multi-node instance, so you can have it scales out quite big if you want to have multiple sensors set up and everything else. XCBD question: do you know if there's something official community-based that gives dynamic power management? I don't know. I've not done any power management with inside of there, so I have no idea. Synology no longer hosts older versions of its OS packages due to licensing changes. Yeah, like I don't know. I can imagine that would be a problem. I don't ever have a need for old Synology packages, so but licensing is a pain, so I can imagine that could be an issue, but I don't really have an opinion on it. Like lots of companies drop old things, and licensing is probably as good a reason as any. I mean, I don't know what, I'd have to know more details to have context for it, but licensing is a challenge. If the license expired, and then this is here's an example. They used to, and this goes to WordPress, for example, was able to use Twitter automatically, part of their, I think it's called the Jetpack build. If you build WordPress sites, and Elon decided that he wants $10,000 in fees for it. So I think that's what it is, for API access. So they said no. So now it's not supported. People are big mad that you can't have the same level of integration with your WordPress and Twitter, which, by the way, WordPress runs about 90% of the websites on the internet. So it's kind of a big deal that they can't integrate, but that's a licensing problem. People are angry about it. But, at some point, should WordPress, the big company they are, just fork over more money for licensing, or should they drop it? I don't know. It's not like a black and white answer. More things should be open source so we don't have these problems, is my answer. Twitter API access is obviously service level access, so it's different, but the concept's the same. You can pull from source image. It's a fully built image. Yes. Well, it's compiling it off the source. Oh, that's right. They have a Docker image too. There's actually available, if I'm not mistaken. Do I have it on here? TrueCharts added this. You can actually build this inside of here and set it up. So you can actually build Zen Orchestra now inside of your TrueNAS system to host it. I thought that was kind of neat. So if you wanted to forego setting it up somewhere else, you could say, why not just put it in here? Stick it in your TrueNAS, because all it does is manage the Zen Orchestra instances. You don't even need to run it as a VM at that point. Synology dropped old versions that contain third-party components. Oh, that makes complete sense. Like, if there's, I mean, how many? From a business standpoint, it's a business decision. Do I keep paying for something that very, very few people use? How many people are really downloading old packages of things? I don't know. I mean, the other side, and I've mentioned this when I've compared Synology to TrueNAS and other companies, is when you're buying a Synology box, it's turnkey but not open source. And not being open source means there's a bunch of licenses involved, and when those licenses change, you have to change with those, or pay, or however that ends up working. Yes. Can you check how much bandwidth something's using in real time in pfSense? NTOPNG is the answer to that question. That will definitely be an easy way to do it. That's probably the fastest way to do it in terms of like accuracy. But you can use other tools just to look at an IP address and see how much bandwidth it's using. That's something you can do inside of pfSense as well. I just bought an old Sophos. Can I install pfSense on it? Just learning. I don't know the Sophos models well enough, but I know some of them will. I can't speak to every model. That's going to be a Google search or post in the forums. But generally speaking, PFSense runs on x86 hardware. So if that model is based on standard x86 hardware that's compatible with PFSense, then it should run. Does anyone? Well, Graylog's pricing is on their site if you want their enterprise. So that I don't think they don't hide their pricing. Let's see. Throw it on the screen. It's a Google search. Look, pricing right at the top of the page. There we go. So starting at 15, it depends which model, which one you want. Graylog operations, $12.50 per month. So right on their thing. So not bad. And I did that video using Graylog Open. So the Graylog Open, free, self-managed. All the features I talked about, all the things I'm doing was with that right there. So there you go. How can you configure XCP XOA so that XOA VM starts automatically when rebooted to host? I configured auto boot VM option, it doesn't work. I don't know what you did wrong because mine all auto start, and I'll show you the secret settings I have right here. Auto power on. That's it. I don't have any other settings, nothing special. It works perfectly fine and we do a lot of these. I don't have any circumstances where I've run into it doesn't work. Now, I'm not likely to do this tutorial. There's actually what is that software out there that UniFi, got a name. It's some type of UniFi logging system that someone set up. Graphics. What is that thing called? Someone made some. There's some tools out there that people have built, but I don't usually, it's funny. It's much UniFi, and we install thousands of these. We just haven't really had a need to use it. So see, you just seen the contact sales button. I mean, it's right at the top next to contact. I mean, you have product, solution, learn, support, pricing, contact us. So I think they made it as obvious as they possibly could. I'm no licensee expert, but the SSPL license, I know it has to do with it puts some type of restriction on how you can sell something as a SaaS service. That's where I'm not an expert on it, but I know in general that's what it means. So my take on it is, I don't really have a direct opinion. I just think what happens is, and I think this started with Elasticsearch. They didn't like that Amazon had hosting. They competed with their hosting. I'm so unclear on all that drama around it. So I'm not well versed enough on licenses to understand why it's bad. I hear people say it's bad, but I haven't found, and I did some reading. I didn't have anyone point blank say this is exactly why it's a terrible idea. It does seem to have, as I understood from the it's bad arguments that are all over Reddit and other forums, it restricts your ability to sell something as a hosted service because that's the model that they have, is hosting it as a cloud service. But it does not seem to put restrictions on you using it at all for free. So I don't know. I'm not a licensing expert, and if someone has a great link they can send it to educate me, Vlog Thursday at learnsystems.com. If there was a concise, not rambling hate article of it's not GNU shaking the fist at the cloud person, then that'd be great. I'm just trying to find some concise information. Is it possible to configure a schedule nextdoor to revert a VM image to the last snapshot was taken? Yes, it is. That's actually a neat feature. You can go to, let me find it real quick. There is a scheduler in here that will do just that. I'm trying to remember where that is. I don't use it very often. I think I have some things in there because you can use it to even suspend. Oh, it's under jobs. It seems obvious, but yeah, let's if you're over in the jobs section, so name of your job, test, timeout. Um, yeah, you can build a schedule here. And where's the snapshot? I think you can type VM snapshot, select the VM. See, there's probably VM snapshot revert. There we go. There we go. This would be you build a job for VM revert, and the VM revert will revert back on a schedule to that particular version. So you could do that. It's an option. The jobs is interesting. There's a lot of weird little things you can do in here that are kind of one-offs. Like if you have some weird use case, they've got a nice menu where you can build weird use cases. I actually shut down. I do have it shutting down some things. I have it suspending stuff. So I'm like, I'm not using it when I'm not working and none of the staff are working. So we actually start suspending all the VMs that were not in use. So I think that's kind of a novel way to do things. Can you log pfSense connection states to Graylog for like the last 2 weeks looking for something historical perspective of pfSense? Yes, you can. I can look up things inside of Graylog of what was going on and when it was happening. So let me, well, let's I can put in here. Yeah, but the short answer is yes. The longer answer is, let me figure this out and give you, make sure I'm not showing any public IP address information, but I think this will do it. Hey, look, it works. Let me find out if this log is good. Hey, there we go. I'll share this tab. So what I did was I did a search for destination IP of 1111. I just want to see over the last some amount of time, where that data is going, how it's getting there. And there we go. It'll choose the destination IP. So it'll log and you can go historically to see if you've reached out to something and where that data went. So yes, there's the open source OpenVAS. I think it's OpenVAS is an open source one. It's really slick. You're going to get probably more false positives. There's plenty of commercial solutions out there for that too. Google wants to push for SSL search to expire after 90 days without software support. All renew is going to be a pain. I don't see the point. Don't see the point in paid SSL search if you just use Let's Encrypt. I completely agree that with the 90 days expiration, Google's not the one pushing for it, by the way. Google's probably pushing for it now. I do know the people who are pushing for it, and it's the folks over at Let's Encrypt and people who care about security. I had a good conversation, which I'm going to bring him on the channel sometime. I have a friend who does some pretty big things at the Linux Foundation and with Let's Encrypt and things like that, and he's extremely knowledgeable on a lot of this. He's a great resource to understand the behind the scenes, which, by the way, I say behind the scenes, but it's more specifically very in public view if you know what forums to participate in, how they dispute these and argue these things out for why they want to change things like that. But absolutely, auto renew is the way to go. Shorter certificates is the way to go. 90 days makes sense to me. An issue I hit with all log servers that some service use journal D instead of syslog to proper differentiate file format. Can you do tutorial using journal D with Graylog? Nope, not likely. I'm going to do a tutorial on that. I send everything to syslog, and I pipe syslog to Graylog and parse it from there. I do not run Active Directory at home at all. I don't have a use case for Active Directory at home. We manage it for businesses, and that's enough Active Directory for me. What setup do you recommend for securing a home lab, say 2 or 3 computers? I don't understand that. I need more context to answer that question. Because what setup would you recommend for securing a home lab is going to be pfSense, and if you're running Windows, use Windows Defender. If you need something more in depth, then I'll need to probably a forum post, ask more specific questions. On top of logging destination IP, I use the dashboard feature to create pie charts to see what rules are the most and who the top talkers are. Yes. Yep. I have not used Velociraptor, but Wazoo and OSEC. So Wazoo is a fork of OSEC. I used to have a lot of OSEC stuff set up. Wazoo came and I was like, oh, I'll get that set up. And I never got around to it. So I still have some OSEC set up. And one day maybe I'll look at Wazoo. I played with it. It looks cool. I just didn't feel like swapping out my OSEC configs with Wazoo. One day, but that day is a little far away. You can set up file plugins for syslog, but it's easier to do this with Loki. Well, I just pipe syslog to Graylog and parse away. Do you use monitoring or something different for monitoring network links, SNMP devices, or hardware appliances? I guess under what context? A lot of the stuff we have is UniFi, so UniFi can do the monitoring for you, but there's also different monitoring tools that I have. So it kind of depends on what type of monitoring. There's different monitoring for different things, depending on, most of our stuff is monitored through our RMM. That's always where we try to get all of the data consolidated as much as possible. The RMM is the source of truth for monitoring things from a business standpoint. We use Ninja One RMM for that. You spoke before about capturing email on Synology, kind of as an archive. I know this exists on QNAP as well as something similar runs on TrueNAS. Not that I know of. I don't know of any email archive capture tool available for TrueNAS. It may exist. I'm just not aware of its existence. Is it true in the early days of firewalls, if you had to write IPv6 rules, you build your own FreeBSD router on IP firewall? It's not only true in the early days, it's true today. You can still build your own firewall. The problem is, it's a great learning experience. Just don't do it for businesses. I've run into this before. I've mentioned this where we've had consulting jobs where someone who is very, very talented with Linux built all their own firewalls at a I think it was a charter school. The dude was really smart. This is actually the problem. He built a really hard to manage system because he did everything by hand, all in Linux. Every server was hand done by him. He found a job that paid 4 or 8 times. He couldn't pass up this offer he got, which was great. Good for him. The problem is they were trying to find someone who could replace him that was going to make what he made. And I'm like, yeah, your skill set you have of being a really good Linux engineer does command this level of pay. But now you've built a system that you're right. The school is going to have a really hard time replacing you. And if we were to manage this, because it's so manually managed, all a bunch of Linux things that were hand put together. So it's not always a good idea for business. There's a reason we have stuff with web interfaces, but from a learning standpoint, so you have the fundamentals down. Because I've still built, and learned how to build firewalls in the early days, which gives me a better understanding of how they work. What do you use to monitor Ubiquiti and Synology? Synology's, what do you call that? Active Insights is great. Ubiquiti, the controller will do. You can use the Ubiquiti controller to manage Ubiquiti. Monitoring, for example, if internet link is up and running, application ports like SMT is up and running, iDirect, ILO. RMM tool has the ability to do that. You can do that through the Ninja One RMM. This is correct. Some services don't log to a syslog like Apache Nginx. That's what our syslog is for. So you can pipe things to them and then have our syslog send it out. But there's other ways to do it. I just do it that way because it's simple, but you are absolutely correct. There are other ways that it can be done. How do you archive mail? FOSS seems to be lacking ease of use. Um, I just put it all, I leave it all in Gmail and download it with Synology's backup tool. I don't, I used to use Thunderbird to archive it all. It's just too tedious. It wasn't worth it anymore. I used to run my own mail servers, and I finally got burned out on doing that. I used to keep a copy of everything in my own mail servers. I said, this is too much trouble, and I just don't care enough anymore. I don't know of any tools that are great for that in the open source world. Where do you stand at OpenSense? I used pfSense for a while, moved to Ubiquiti, EdgeRouter, looking to move back to OpenSense or pfSense. I still like pfSense. There's more, someone pointed this out the other day, and they're not wrong. There's just more documentation, more write-ups, not just my videos, but just in general. If you search for how to set something up in pfSense, you have a more active community, you have a more active number of blogs and posts and write-ups on how to do things, and more extensive documentation. So it really comes down to, could you interpret a pfSense write-up into something for OpenSense? Sure, you could. Or you can just use pfSense and not have to do that. So it all depends on what you want to do. Looking for intrusion detection system, trying to find a simple one to set up. I don't know any intrusion detection system that is easy unless it's an expensive commercial one. Like if you go to higher end commercial systems that are paid subscription, they're going to be easy to set up. If you want something that's free, you're going to put some more effort into it. Wazoo is a pretty cool system, or because Wazoo is also included with Security Onion. Security Onion's amazing. It's also complicated. That's what's taken me so long to get to doing a full video on Security Onion. It's a great, amazing product that also just is a lot to set up. And well, it's not to make a video on, because I haven't figured out where I started on making a video for it. Like, I want to use it and I want to make a video on it, but boy, breaking all this down, it's going to be one of those, I'm gonna have to sit down for a couple hours to do the video. And that's where the challenge is going to be. But it's definitely it's a really neat product. It's amazing what they bundle in there. It's a huge learning opportunity for anyone running a home lab. I tried to back up my OneDrive account, but failed to make it easy. You had some recommendation to do it proper. I don't use OneDrive, so I don't know the best way to do it. I think TrueNAS can back it up, but I don't know. Let me look. Is OneDrive in TrueNAS or? Huh. Why won't this sign in? That's a new problem. I log into my TrueNAS. It just decided refresh the page and the magic happens. So that was weird. System, is it under credentials? Let's see, is OneDrive in here? Now, I don't have a OneDrive account, so I can't answer if this is a good or bad thing. I will tell you it's a thing, though. They have it in here, so I would try that. ISP won't let me run my MX after switching to fiber a few years back. They were fine with it from dial-up ADSL, but not on their fiber network. Yeah. Do you know if it's possible to run a UniFi controller remotely? Give it a public IP address. I need to control a switch or remote and do not want to spin up a VPN server over there. Yeah, you can run it remotely. I mean, we have matter of fact, if you even look at my system, log into it. So here is my system, like Tom's basement. This is all run at my office. I'm not local to it. Well, where the controller is at my office, and where this is here. So yes. My understanding is why pfSense CE is held back from public. It's not held back. 2.7 is under development. I'm thinking they're going to release it soon, but they do the CE release cycles like annually. It takes them a lot longer because they focus on the one that makes them money. So they focus on the community edition, is not like held back. It just doesn't get compiled at the same time. So yeah. Your video is really good because you explain why you selected those options in our videos. You just tell you have selected, but not explain why. Thank you very much. That's appreciated. And you explain the other option and why you did not select the either option. I try to be concise to make people understand like how all of that works. What am I most excited about? I have no idea. All of it's exciting to me. I don't have any specific thing right now that's got me particularly excited. I always think virtualization is cool. That's my go-to because virtualization is awesome. So I'm always excited looking at all that stuff there. Ooh, hot sauce arriving Monday. All right. That is cool. I do like hot sauce. I do like hot sauce. Did I get any new emails? No. All right. Making sure I thought another email came in. It did not. Perfect. Yeah, my office is where we send everything. I don't give out my home address. Is there a way for PFSense GUI and Let's Encrypt without HA proxy? Yeah, you can just set up Let's Encrypt on PFSense. It doesn't, and then use that as your certificate. You don't have to use it with HA proxy. Certificate management and PFSense and HA proxy are two separate things. So you can set up just certificate management if you want. Containerization is better. Yeah, but you still got to run the containers somewhere. So virtual machines are where it all starts. Virtual machines are mostly the base for this. You build I have a Portainer set up, but it's still a virtual machine that then runs a bunch of stuff in Docker containers. So there's still all those connective things that need to work. But I think that's all I have for today. I'll give this a couple more minutes, so I'll go right to 4:30. I think my son wants chocolate milk, and we go to this one particular dairy farm and buy the chocolate milk directly. He wanted that, and for myself, I bought another motorcycle, so I want to go ride my other motorcycle. There you go. There. I bought another motorcycle, so my plan today is to go ride my motorcycle some more. I bought a little 125 because it's fun. With your UniFi controller video and Christopher Cross video, I migrated my UniFi controller to Linux server on Vultr. Almost painless, so sweet in the cloud. Awesome. I love to hear that. HPE has A6 on their storage deployment. How much do you think this gives your appliance an edge over TrueNAS? I don't think so at all. What really sets HP apart from TrueNAS is how awful the support is. We're working with people who are just so unhappy with the way HP has had support in their pricing. So the fact that there's the poor support and high prices have people going, that's not necessarily the best thing for us. So I don't think it's going to give them an edge. We're quickly moving everything to container or immutable system space. Cool. What conferences are you going to this year? I am going to, I don't know if you're going to, I think there's still tickets left to go to MSP GeekCon. So this is 9 days away, but I'll also be at IT Nation Secure. So let me pull that up real quick. IT Nation Secure is June 5th, 6th, and 7th. And I'm actually, I'll be giving a talk with my friend Jason Slagle and Matt Lee. We've done if you look up on my channel, How I Would Hack You, we're going to do a similar talk to that. And we've done that before. So jump servers that can connect to both Windows and Linux for Home Lab. Nope. I don't have any suggestions on that. I don't use jump servers to get to Windows computers. We use Screen Connect. Hot sauce and motorcycles. Yes. Oh, you'll be at Cisco Live. I'm sorry. If you do Cisco, it probably makes sense. I would not go to Cisco Live, but I'm not a big Cisco fan. So I'm going to be I working in the IT MSP space means I usually go to those events. But if you can make the MSP GeekCon, that's definitely going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, that's a that just I'm so looking forward to that. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if you're wondering, this is what I was doing last weekend, riding with all my adventure riding friends. So this is the other thing I go do is do some of these. So the it's either adventure riding, playing in the sand. Well, this is the problem with when you get to the rural areas of Michigan is there's a lot of sand here to contend with. People dropping their bikes and things like that. But that's part of the fun. Part of the fun of riding is the challenges that come with it. Uh, you're not a fan of iOS? No, not a big Cisco person. Speaking of Cisco collab with David, no, not likely I'll do anything Cisco with David. I don't do enough Cisco, so there's not much interest I have in it. How do you decide what to host internally, what to host in the cloud? Um, is is the demand? I try to first. I always prefer to host it internally, but if the external demand is really high, it'll get hosted in the cloud. My website, I do not host locally because the hits on my website would exceed, same with my forums, the hits on that, the external demand on it is higher than the internal demand. So it's better suited for the cloud. But for some of the other services we have, if there's a low demand on it and I can host it, I will host it. But that's my decision. The decision that a lot of people make that's not very fortunate is they go, I want to host it myself. Are you familiar with hosting? And they go, not at all. Are you going to host something critical yourself? Absolutely. Do you know how it works? Barely. I don't know how to secure it or anything. Well, at some point, you have to make those rational decisions based on an overall, are you good at maintaining this thing properly and securely yourself? Now, if it's a learning experience, great. But if it's a business production system, then you want to take that in consideration carefully. So, weather's good in Michigan, so I can take my Yamaha MT-09 out of hibernation. Yeah, you hibernate the bikes a little bit in um, the winter. That's for sure. That's for sure. I don't. You can say that these aren't ideal, um, but it's not all sand. So the there's plenty of dirt. Just I took a picture because people got stuck in the sand. I didn't get stuck in the sand. I've gotten better. I used to get stuck in the sand a lot. I get stuck in the sand a lot less now. So I'm proud of this because sand is the enemy of large motorcycles. That's it is it is a pain. Uh this is what happens with sand and big motorcycles. They fall a lot, especially when I'm riding them. So doesn't mean they're not fun. It's just that's what happens to me. It's a thing. On a fun note, this is I was riding around in this with my friends. So we got sand buggies for the other part. So this is the other fun thing I do. This is what I do when I'm not playing with computers. I go play in the dirt. uh, Has the thought of using external MSP store provide security services crossed your mind? Nope, not at all. Not for me. I haven't seen any that impressed me that I would do that. So we use Sentinel One for all of our security monitoring. We have the full what they call Sentinel One Vigilance, and we have Huntress. So I'm fine with that. Plus all the logging we have. There's actually some other stuff like Blue Mirror that we run, but yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to outsource it. I haven't met anyone that would make me go, yeah. Now, I think I'm not saying it's a bad service. I work in cybersecurity and I have a strong familiarity with this. And so do the other people that I work with. So that's why I don't think as much about it. Can you share how you secure a hosted environment for a client if you ask to set up for them? What type of hosted environment? We will practice principles of least privilege and make sure we have a patch management set up for them, et cetera, et cetera. It's just all standard. If you Googled it, you would find the same answers. Yes. When in doubt, throttle out. That's how you solve the problems of getting stuck in the sand on the motorcycles is when in doubt, throttle out. Just punch it. I don't know. That's definitely not the most articulate answer, and that often leads to just a faster crash. Can you touch on third-party SD-WAN providers? I don't know how to choose an external SD-WAN company to terminate multi-WAN failover for redundancy, and AWS is too expensive for my needs. They're all expensive. I don't know how to do it either. I haven't seen one that I think is affordable, so I have no idea how to help you on that. They're expensive services. Matter of fact, we've actually removed them from companies because they couldn't figure out why they had them, and they had outage. I can't remember which company they had. We had one that had a couple outages, and they, I don't know. It's one of those things like, do you need it? It's a neat system, but it's going to be expensive because you're having to terminate on their system like that. So you're, combining it all together, all your connections, so they can pipe over to their data center and pipe back out. That's going to have a cost to it. And I don't know what the right price is, but it's not the right price for me. We don't even use one. We just use dual connections, and most of our clients do too. They're like, hey, whatever. When the internet goes out, there's a pause and it fails over to the other side. Where do you store secret PNGs of personal data? I don't know. I don't exactly understand what you're asking. I keep passwords in my head that, my master password in my head so I can unlock my Bitwarden. I keep things in Bitwarden. Cisco Viptela? Oh yeah. I seen, I didn't know it was called Viptela. I did see that Cisco had a big SD-WAN outage. I seen it in the news. I just didn't click on it because I have 0 customers using this. So 0 people I know were affected by this. Since the UDM has introduced WireGuard, I moved over to it and got to say it's awesome. Yeah, I can't believe they finally got it. So different type of SD-WAN. So I have a video where I talk about all the different types of SD-WAN. SD-WAN is a category that gets slapped on more than one service. So it's not a thing, it's actually several things. So when Chris asked the question, the context was multi-WAN bonding essentially with SD-WAN. That is a flavor different than what you're going to get with Tailscale or Zero Tier. Got a viewport, shows up and protect, but connection loss signs, so cannot adopt it. Yeah, I have no idea. We've tested a few of those and they all worked. They're pretty neat. Hey, Tom, by chance you have experienced issues with XCPG using Windows servers with database or terminal connectivity issues? Nope, I haven't had any problems with them. The ones we have we have customers with databases that work. We have a company that has a massive warehouse and all their system is running an XCPNG. They got a pair of Windows servers and one of them has a big database on it. Kinks and memory cards and thumb for. I have no context to explain what you asked. Viewport does not play nice with AI 360. Huh. What's my favorite Raspberry Pi project? That one I can answer pretty easily, and that's going to be Home Assistant. But there's a runner-up. There's actually 2 of them that I just love. So let's pull this up real quick. The 2 Raspberry Pi projects that I like are Home Assistant and Uptime Kuma. So Uptime Kuma is super cool for monitoring everything and seeing if there's any issues. This I have running on an old Raspberry Pi 2. because why not? I think, or maybe it's a 3. I think it might be a Raspberry Pi 3. I can't remember. It's just that it's dedicated to running Uptime Kuma. That way, it's not part of anything. If something goes down, this sends me alerts. So, and then you just use one other thing in your normal stack to monitor that. But the other one is definitely going to be Home Assistant. I just think Home Assistant's amazing. I've automated one of the things that keeps delaying the video on Home Assistant is actually the what do you call it? The fact that I keep automating more things. Let me share it. There you go. So Home Assistant, I've got all kinds of things tied to it. It controls all my studio lights. It controls my cameras. It controls my lights around the house. And it's just such a neat project. I keep adding more and more things here. I even have now built systems where if there's a detection on my Synology, it turns on the lights. And it has to detect a person, not motion. But if a person's detected or a car's detected in my driveway, the lights come on the outside perimeters of my house around where it found the object. So you can just keep going down rabbit holes with it. So that's why I keep wanting to start the video and I'm like, oh, let me automate one more thing. And yeah. How to set up Uptime Kuma? Probably, I think my friend Christian just released a video on it. Let me find it. So I will, if you look in, Christian Lempa has a video said the home server uptime monitoring. He's got a tutorial he just released on this. So I didn't watch it, but he does really good content. So okay, Network Chuck has one as well. Cool. Uptime Kuma would definitely work on a Zima board. The Zima board is substantially faster than the Raspberry Pi I have running this. So the Zima board will definitely do a good job on that. All right. Well, I'm going to wind it down so I can go get some chocolate milk. Thank you, everyone who joined. Email questions over to vlogthursday@lawrencesystems.com. And I will try to do my best to answer them next week. Maybe if I feel inspired, I keep saying this, but I don't always do it. Maybe I'll do a Friday night live stream because I have a hard time doing the Saturday and Sunday ones because it's been nice out and I've been out riding my motorcycle and bicycling and things like that. So awesome. Thank you, everyone who joined. Hit my forums. That's the best place because I do daily, even when I'm traveling or whatnot. I go daily into my forums and make sure I answer questions in there. Because there were some challenges with Graylog and the forum. Some other people in the forum, there was a problem with certain CPUs. If you had Proxmox, oddly, that caused a problem. I don't use Proxmox, but hey, the awesome people in my forums, there's a lot of people, a lot more than just me in there, do a good job. So definitely, I'm just trying to push them a little more because it's one of those things like if you want to engage with a lot of people, I love the fact that there's a big community of people who answer questions often before I have time to answer them. So forums.lawrencesystems.com, definitely, participate in the community. If you got questions, especially if they're more complicated ones, outline everything in there. And if I don't, you often will find people have really good responses and some answers for that. So I'll leave you all with that. And thank you.